utilizing a well-regulated militia formed by people who were well-armed. Did you know there are over 600,000 hunters in Wisconsin, 750,000 in Pennsylvania, 700,000 in Michigan, 250,000 in West Virginia? I happen to live in South Carolina, and although I can't tell you the number, I can tell you it's a lot. These are people who have guns and know how to use them. It would not be difficult to see how the founders would organize these people into a unit ready to defend their liberties. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 16. In fact, if you read this clause, you will find that the founders probably would have supported the arming of the militia in any way possible. Here's what it says: to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states, respectively, the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. So we can see from this clause, the Constitution authorizes the training of the militia to a national standard, creating uniformity among them. In this way, if the militia in one state needs to aid the militia in another state because of their uniformity and training, there would be very little time necessarily spent covering protocols or SOPs. Now he goes on to explain constitutionally the fact that our Constitution does not allow for the maintaining of a standing army, only to provide for a navy. And most of us understand and know that by now, if you've at all read your constitutional Article 1, Section 8, Clauses 12, 13, and 14. Excuse me. The only time a standing army is allowed for is during a time of war on this soil. We are not at war on this soil, regardless of the phony claims of the war on terror, which doesn't even exist. That's been made up as a tool to control us and be able to grab the rest of our freedoms so that we beg for more tyranny to save us from the boogeyman that doesn't exist. Now, our founders knew the pain of allowing for standing armies. Their experience led them to limit appropriation of monies for that end for 2 years. Of course, the coast needed to be protected, and rules for governing and regulating both land and naval forces were and are necessary even to this day, whether we are at war or not. Our borders on the oceans must be guarded and protected. You can't just sit there and be easily overrun. Now, it also states, no state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops, or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power, or engage in war, unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. That's pretty clear what they meant when they gave Congress the power to arrange for a standing army during war. It is not supposed to be there during peace. Now, he goes on to explain a lot of that. I'll make this text available on the website so that I don't have to read all of it. But I would like to skip forward in his email here to Tim Pledger's response. Hi, Matthew. I just opened your email. It appears you have a heart for the people and you are sincere in what you have committed to writing. After a quick read, it is apparent that the thinking you have employed involves several fallacies of reasoning. In brotherly love, I intend to give a more thorough response, being as thorough as time and mission allow me. I suggest that you reassess your reasoning using a rule book for arguments by Anthony Weston, which is a very basic and succinct book on the subject of reasoning. It is a small paperback. In fact, everyone in the Republic would be helped by studying it. It would also help for you to revisit the Constitution after having adjusted your cognition. Just as you kindly give notice of the possibility that you would go Republic-wide with your writing, I kindly give notice that if you do such, I will likely go republic-wide with a critical analysis exposing your error. Looking forward to further discussion. In faith, hope, and love, Timothy Coy Pledger. Now, that's usual. If you make the mistake of thinking clearly and in a cognitive fashion, you will be attacked for it. That was mild for Mr. Pledger, but it's same old, same old. And then there were some more emails on the subject, and Pastor Coleman was speaking about the ASR and this the Republic Rangers. And this is very important information. I want everybody to pay special attention to this. He says, number one, to accept and pass the judicial acts of 1789 and 1836. Okay, that's important. I have said before, and I have reminded everyone, it was George Washington who actually stripped the states of their sovereignty in 1790. It was the Judicial Act of 1789 which he used to his own ends to do that. He created federal districts and thereby stripped the states of their individual sovereignty, making of them districts of the national central government. So George Washington, although we've been told was the father of our country, he was not. He was the conqueror of it. So here we see that in this ASR and this creation of this nationally controlled ranger program replacing the militia, that they are wanting to reinstate the Judicial Acts of 1789 and 1836 was almost identical to 1789. To what end? If you are trying to reinstate and recreate a constitutional republic, why, people, right out of the gate, would you duplicate the corporate action that George Washington took to undo the sovereignty of the people and the states? It tells you right there what RuSA is up to. They also want to be able to get judicial relief and make the courts functional so they can deal with members who injure RuSA members, to deal with RuSA officers who injure RuSA members, to deal with foreigners who do the same. You, me, and everybody else out here, we're foreigners to these people. Thank God. They want to make the ASR a judicial document requiring everyone to retake his or her oath in front of a judge. Now, that's very odd.
Right.
Okay, although the Judicial Act of 1789 is not perfect, so it is there to be 10, so is it for there to be 10 representatives for every state, regardless of population, to determine if there's anything unconstitutional about either act, and if so, resolve by bringing a solution to the table. Okay, now, Mark Hafner goes on to claim that this ASR, due to international jurisdiction for funding commerce, the ASR is far superior document. Let me repeat that. The ASR, due to international jurisdiction for funding and commerce, is far superior document. International jurisdiction for funding and commerce?
Wow.
And they are supposed to be restoring our constitutional republic? Ladies and gentlemen in Radioland, if you have anything to do with a foreign entity, answer to a foreign entity, and I don't care which one it is, the UN, the Fed Reserve, the U.S. corporate government out of Washington, D.C. is also a foreign entity, owned by foreign people. If you bow down to that, you most certainly are not under a constitutional republic, and you are not free. So I won't go over that whole email where he is trying to convince everybody that it's such a beautiful document. You will be able to make that judgment yourself by reading it after the radio show. The recording that will be up there, as it says here, shows the color of RuSA and the control they want over the people. Now, a friend of mine who sent me this stuff also said, I listened and recorded part of the call before I was dropped. The idea that the ASR is now going to be a judicial document and everyone must take and re-sign it before a judge is ludicrous. I have trouble believing that intelligent men and women would even consider such an act. Plus, their idea that they will be able to take people before their courts who have injured anyone in RuSA and get remedy is unrealistic. They or their courts have no authority over anyone, as they are not a legitimate organization. Also, I cannot believe that they are still using the promise of funding to get the men and women to follow their directions. The promise of funding has been the carrot they've used since the beginning to sway the good men and women to do their bidding, but nothing has ever come from it, just false promises. And that is signed Tom, Free American Man. Now, on to some issues from California. As you all know, some of those most involved in the lies and scams are indeed part of the California Assembly, and have been from the beginning. It seems now, however, as is true in the de facto world, the rats are eating each other. I don't know why. There is a link I have had, I'm having the webmaster put up, to some video footage out of California, and I'd like to share some of the content. That link will be put up. It'll be there so that you guys can all go watch the video for yourselves. But I'm going to tell you what to watch for and at what times in the videos you'll find it. Part 1 of Ken Cousins' 4/28/2012 address. Reps resigned, one return is at 11 minutes into Part 1. And 16 minutes into it is the Republic equals what's best for all according to Ken. He states we've not achieved the principle. At the 1830 mark, he says we have not established a republic or rule of law. At the 2030 mark, he mentions RAP. January 31st, 2010, led by Sam Kennedy, initiates RAP in a peaceful manner, 27-member grand jury body in each state. Sent declarations to governors requesting governors to accept and obey their oaths. Proceeded to Sam Kennedy, removed by July 2010. People told funding and military was behind the people. Allegedly, Turner left standing. At 2530, Ken states funding has been the carrot and everything done under emergency has been based on the idea that the funding is legitimate. At 2630, we are now a private, legal, but not lawful association. Most people believe in principles that support life and sustain life. We have not worked toward this end collectively. At the 3130 mark, how is country and government formed? A government can be formed and dissolved. RuSA is not properly established. We are a private association representative of a democratic republic. 3430, Declaration of Sovereign Intent. Ken was told it included a statement to the effect that we are establishing or claiming a general post office, but that document has gone nowhere. It's never been seen. He states the DSI is still not forthcoming and that it has not been placed where it needs to be placed in alignment with international law. It is a nullity and has no force, effect in law. Step 2 must claim the free rural routes that extend out from general post office. We've all been lifted off the land and put into a plantation as non-resident aliens. Resident means you are in federal D.C. zone. Alien is not indigenous to the land. Therefore, we are not nationals. We never set a government. I find it very interesting that he goes through saying everything I've been saying, and yet still trying to push this entire idea and keep this silly government going. It doesn't make any sense. But I will also include the text of this email after the show. So I want to move forward to the end here. at the 33-minute mark, I believe, of part